Hey everyone. Let me get this adjusted. Okay. I'm just going to give it a couple moments for you guys to get notified that it's happening. We're here. And, of course, the replay will be up. And if you're on my email list, I'm going to go ahead and send it out on the email list as well. So awesome. Hey, Caroline. Hello, Layla. Awesome. Cool, Lindsay. Fantastic. All right, we're here. I haven't been live, I don't think, since the whole subconscious tune-up event I did. When I did that in August. So it's been a while. All right. Just gonna wait just a couple more minutes. How you ladies doing? Okay, we're just going to go ahead and get started. I am not very good at patience. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about feminine history, or her story for a better play on words. And I'm going to take you through kind of just a little meditation just to call these lost parts of ourselves back home. So just to be really clear here, I am not in any way trying to say that anything that any of you believe is wrong, or I'm not trying to sway you or persuade you to believe in anything else. This is just a fun conversation to have about feminine history and just kind of where we were as the goddess and into the Roman Empire and the Inquisition and the witch trials, and just the energy that women still kind of carry with us today, especially around worthiness, sexuality, things like that. So this is our very first Soul Talks. I plan to do these every month towards the end of the month to help us kind of get into a theme, a feeling of just a particular theme to lead us into the next month. This will pair directly with my Breathe and Receive membership, just so you guys know. So if you ever did find something in here that I speak about to be very interesting and you wanted to dive deeper into it, I will always welcome you into the Breathe and Receive membership. It's in there that you can access all the previous months and all the new themes that get added the first of every month, as long as you remain a member. And it's the last 2 days of September for you to get that 32% off. So you would get it for $17 a month with no contract. So I'll put all that in the description below when I'm done with this call. And also, too, one more thing, beginning in October, every Wednesday on my podcast is going to have a different witchy woman feature. So I interviewed several really amazing women. There's so many of you that I would love to have you on. I just only have so much space in the month to upload them, but I'm excited to do this again, hopefully soon. But I just wanted to really kind of feature this whole idea of witchy things and witchy women for the month of October because of Halloween. I love Halloween. And also, our holidays are just going to be a little bit different this year. Let's be honest, right? So I just wanted to offer something fun, lighthearted, and interesting. So all right, that's it for all of my disclaimers and disclosures. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into her story. So, cave paintings and carvings have shown that God has actually been worshipped as a female longer than worshipped as a male. And this was called mother god worship that actually dates back to 35,000 years ago, which actually makes mother god worship the oldest form of religion that is known to us, that we are aware of with all of our major religions that we see today. So does that mean that God's a female and not a male? No, not necessarily, but believe what you want to believe, right? Like for me personally, I believe for God to be male and female simultaneously. I believe God to be in everything and everyone, but some people are just going to believe that God to be a male external force. People believe God to be just like female. People believe God to be just nature, whatever it is, right? This is just what we have seen in cave paintings and carvings. So during these times, women were seen as the goddess. We were celebrated. Land, money, and even last names through marriage were always passed down actually through the female lineage, not the male. Our bodies were celebrated and everything was seen as sacred. We were all one, all the same. We lived with nature. We lived with Mother Earth. We were all unified, all one, all interconnected. We lived as nature. Women were the wisdom holders. We were the healers. We were the seers. And everything about a woman was completely holy and divine. Though even the way that we released every month. So in fact, the whole idea of the red tents, when women would go into these tents together to have their periods, they would completely rest. And our intuition is the strongest during this time of the month because it's the only time that the right and left side hemisphere of the brain is balanced. So our intuition is extremely heightened. And women would go in there and we would tell stories and we would support each other. And we would also be able to tell the men of our tribes where food would be, or where perhaps danger was, or where items of riches were. Okay, so this was a very sacred time, and it's in fact why the sweat tents were created, because men also wanted a way to release every month as well, because we were able to. Also, the way that our bodies just naturally match the tides and match the moon. It was very magical. And women were celebrated for their magic, for our intuition, for those desires, for the intuition that we have. It was something to be celebrated, not feared. And in fact, it's even talked about too that during the time of the Ice Age that we had to be completely surrendered in communication with the earth and with all the beings of the earth. It's the only way that we were able to survive the extreme climate. However, once that ice started to melt and tribes were able to move more freely, there was tribes that were actually formed who worshipped through the act of war. So, of course, and unfortunately, these mother god worshipping tribes were the main focus of attack. My guess is because we were the easier targets, but who knows, right? It could have just been, for just the main purpose of like making women surrender and just being afraid of our power. I'm sure had a lot to do with it. But when these attacks happened, many women were raped and tortured and killed, and also many were enslaved and forced to marry. So as these mother god tribes are being ripped apart, and this whole idea of mother god worship is just being completely shamed and demolished, the Roman Empire is being built. Okay, and the Roman Empire then begins to use Christianity to instill fear and control within people. When we once believed God to be within and all around us, we were actually then forced to worship an external male god. And if we didn't worship that external male god, if we spoke against Christianity, we were often tortured, we were killed, or we were labeled as pagan. And that always kind of makes me laugh, because pretty much all of our traditions that we have today, the Christmas tree, the Easter egg hunts, all of that, those are all of pagan descent. But we don't need to go there. But it's just very, very interesting that we have spent so much time calling out women and calling witch and killing all these innocent people to still be harnessing the pagan traditions. So many mother god worshiping temples were destroyed, and many of the mother god worshiping like deities and paintings and carvings and all of that were completely destroyed. And we can actually see this in many images, but one specifically is the image of Saint Michael slaying the snake. So that snake represents Shakti energy. Shakti energy is feminine energy. It's the beautiful, creative, and pleasurable energy. It's the energy that you feel when you step into a forest. It's the energy you feel when you look at the ocean. It's the energy you feel when you're just completely embodied in your beautiful self. Shakti energy is the energy of the feminine. And if you know anything about Kundalini, Kundalini yoga talks a lot about the Kundalini snake at like the base of your spine that coils and like wraps around the spine, comes all the way up. So that snake represents the feminine. And the snake, though, is often depicted now as the sin of a woman. Maybe not so much now, but it has been. I mean, let's look at the story of Adam and Eve from the Bible. The snake is what persuaded Eve to eat that apple, and she was sinful and all of that. So we can really see that in how much it's been destroyed or how much it's been rearranged to fit a different idea of what Shakti energy is, what feminine energy is, what a woman is. So a woman's body during this time went from being sacred to belonging to a man. Sexual urges from both men and women were considered completely sinful, which was completely disconnecting us from our bodies. Women were forced to fit into one of two categories, one of two archetypes, really. You were literally either a virgin or you were a whore. Stories of the sacred feminine were turned into worship of the masculine. And I even have like this whole idea of the burning of the Library of Alexandria. So in that library consisted all of the original written work, and it was lit on fire or it burned down. I mean, who knows if it was lit on fire, but I think it was. And oh yeah, I'm quite the conspiracy theorist if you haven't caught on. All the original written words were completely destroyed. And many things were then rewritten to fit these ideas of these new empires that were being built to more so worship a male versus female, that were built to take women so far away from their power, from their truth, right? So even we can get into this whole idea of the Gospel of Mary that people were supposed to destroy and get rid of, but it was a couple brave monks that actually ended up hiding the Gospel of Mary instead, and they've been showing up all around the world. Let's talk about even the texts of Paul and Thecla. I mean, there's a lot out there. We could really just like go down this huge rabbit hole. I hope that this kind of inspires you to do some of your own research as well. But even the word virgin used to mean like an independent woman who belonged to herself, and it was then changed to be like a sexless being. So the Virgin Mary, let's look at her from a sexful, empowered woman who belongs to herself to just being sexless, as if, just creating this whole idea that our sexuality is a sin. But as we know, and as we've been kind of like exploring within ourselves, our sexuality is actually very powerful, right? Like our sexuality is what creates life. It can create any sort of life, right? It is completely our power. It's that turn on. It's life, right? It's growth. It's expansion. It's beauty. So I'm going off on a tangent. Okay. So then we go into the Inquisition. So we went through the mother god worshiping times to Roman Empire. Now we're in the Inquisition that began in the 12th century. And this was a time of just instilling even more fear and even more control. So much terror was going on here. This is when women started to be called witch. So witchcraft was deemed as an awful act, and women began being burned at the stake. So fear rapidly spread across Europe and much of the Americas as the inhabitants were forced to watch these women burn. And we worked together before this time, right? Like we went into the red tents together. We supported each other. We bled together. We birthed each other's babies. Like we were sisters. We explored our magic together. And here we are now having to turn on each other in order to try to avoid our own demise. We weren't able to stand up for anybody or save anybody, because if we did, we risked our own awful, torturous demise. So, and also too, during this time, women were being forced to sit on burning iron stools because their sexuality was satanic. We have no idea how many women were actually killed, but it estimates between tens of thousands to millions. The BBC recently said that they found like thousands of bodies beneath a church in Scotland. So we're still uncovering just how many very innocent people were burned at the stake, were tortured, were killed in other ways because of just our natural intuition, our natural calls, our just who we are, like literally killed for being born a woman. And of course, the majority of these people weren't even given a trial, and if they were, it was a very unsafe trial. Like we all know these stories of they would like tie a weight to you and they would throw you in the water, and if you drowned, you weren't a witch, but if you didn't drown, then you obviously were a witch, and then you'd be killed anyways. I mean, just completely unfair. Who came up with this? I don't know. It's awful. It's really awful. So we can see here how much fear and terror had been just like taken over the Europe and much of the Americas, and how much has taken away women from their natural power, from their instincts, from their intuition, from their just natural desires, from who we really are. And so, like, where has this led us to today? It's led us to a lot of discomfort, confusion, and shame around our sexuality, around our periods. I mean, even still today, the way that sex is taught in schools, it's still taught, even in public schools, it's still taught from religious Catholic beliefs that abstinence is really the only way. We never addressing really like the desires, and healthy desires at that, right? Even periods, like I don't have TV, like I have like Netflix. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw a commercial, but the last I know of, even like our period blood in a tampon commercial or pad commercial is blue. It's not even red. I mean, there's so much shame around this and very much confusion. It's also a lot of confusion around our own intuition, our desires, our creativity. There's a lot of slut shaming going around, and I think that this healed some, but again, like, I don't know, I'm 32 years old now, so I haven't been in that sort of category in 10, 15 years, but we still have like big like slut shaming, calling women whores, especially for just following their own desires. And we can see this very much so as well when we see a man sleeping around and kind of doing his thing and following his desires. Nobody bats an eye to that, but a woman who does that, she's a slut, she's a whore. We also today still are recovering from women trusting women. Do we not see this everywhere, of women just kind of having their walls up around other females, feeling like they can't trust each other? And honestly, I believe it to be going back to the Inquisition, when we had to turn on each other to avoid that awful demise. We went from being sisters to, maybe even like in covens, to then having to turn on each other. And I do believe that it's still very much an energy that's very alive today, but I do think that we are recovering from it, because I, like myself included, and so many women that I know, we're starting to crave this idea of sisterhood, of gathering with other females, of even like speaking more open about our sexuality, our periods, and getting loud about it, really leading the way. And also women being celebrated for aging. Like that's another big part that we're not seeing today, is that we're not being celebrated for aging. And because we think about this, like the maiden, the mother, and the crone, the three levels of the woman that was then turned into the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And the maiden being the young woman, mother, and then crone in her older years. And it's just not something that is very much celebrated at all. In fact, we're told to inject ourselves with poisons and dye our hair and do all these things to avoid growing older, when men are very much celebrated for their aging process. So it's just like the woman is just not very much celebrated and glorified through all of her years. We're pretty much only celebrated when we're young and beautiful and have like that flawless skin and just in her youth. So what I'm going to do now is, if there's no questions, which I don't think that there is, but I don't think it's letting me see any comments, is I'm just going to lead you through a little meditation. And I just want to guide you to call all these parts of you home. The parts of us that we feel shame around, confusion around, and that we have just kind of like left behind us. Our intuition, our sexuality, that sisterhood, just connecting with that God sense that's within us and all around us. Okay? So if you are a man watching this, you are still more than welcome to enjoy this, because we are all masculine and feminine. And I feel like we're all just kind of like feeding off of each other. So this is for everybody. So let's go ahead and get in a comfortable seated position. I'm sure you already are, but maybe if you're watching this and like doing some chores or something, if you want to go ahead and pause that chore and join me sitting. If you are driving right now, of course, please do not participate in this, and just come back in a little bit when you are safe. And just begin to close your eyes. And we'll begin by feeling every space of your body that's supported by the chair or the floor beneath you. And allow those spaces to begin to just melt into that space beneath you. Just feeling completely held, supported, and loved in this moment. And then scanning the rest of the body and just seeing if you can release any tension, any spaces of tightness that you may be gripping onto. And see if you can allow those spaces to melt into the spaces that are being supported. Just allow yourself to let everything go. And We'll start together by taking 3 deep breaths. So let's inhale through the nose. Send that deep breath into the belly, feeling the belly expand. Open the mouth and exhale. Let it all completely go. Deep inhale through the nose. Complete exhale through the mouth. And the final one, deep inhale. And long exhale. I want you to bring your awareness into the space between your eyebrows, your third eye. And I want you to see yourself as if you were on a movie screen within the third eye space. See yourself standing within a beautiful forest. See these tall trees and so much green around you. Smell the earth. Feel the cool air of the forest on your skin and your bare feet on the cool, soft ground. You can hear the wind going through the leaves, and you feel that Shakti energy within you and all around you. You allow this beautiful, creative, and pleasurable energy that you're witnessing in this forest to begin to awaken those parts that have been lying dormant within you. As you breathe in, imagining breathing in all of that Shakti energy, sending it to the bottoms of the feet. And as you exhale, you feel it fill up your entire vessel. Feeling alive, awakened, and turned on. And as you are standing here in this forest full of Shakti energy, you are starting to remember who you are, who you've always been. And you begin to call all parts of you home. Think about those parts that we discussed that may be missing from your life. If you feel shame or discomfort around your own sexuality or desires, call that home. Call the power of your sexuality home. Know that you are here to live in your desires, to experience pleasure in this life. If you feel shame or discomfort around your monthly cycles, release it and call the power of your menstrual cycle home. If you feel shame or discomfort around your intuition, about your ability to just know, to feel led, to communicate with the divine, release the shame and call these powers home. If another woman's sexuality and desires trigger something within you, I invite you to release those judgments without any judgment and call compassion, unity home. Knowing that her desires are just as needed as your desires. If you have trouble opening up to women, letting your guard down and trusting other women, I invite you to release these old stories and call your sisters home. Open your heart, open your arms to sisterhood, to community, to wholeness. And lastly, if you find yourself feeling ashamed of your growing, aging body, you find yourself wishing for your youth again and denying the wise woman within you, I invite you to release these old societal stories and norms and call your truth home. Call your knowledge home. All parts of you home. If there's any other emotion, feeling, desire that you've been feeling ashamed about, confused about, say it now. Release it. And call home your truth. Call home your power. And take a moment now to feel gratitude for this forest, for showing up, for taking this time. Feel gratitude for coming home to your wholeness. And when you feel ready, I invite you to begin to bring yourself back into your room. Feel the chair or floor beneath you. deepen your breath. And when you feel ready, you can begin to open your eyes. Awesome. I went on my laptop to try to see comments, and it says there's 13, but I can still only see a couple, so I will read through them as it will allow. And I do see that someone said that their kids interrupted. All good. I will leave this replay up so you can come back to it at any time. And like I said, I think at the beginning, if you're on my email list, I'll be sending it out there as well. So thank you so much for joining. Any questions, please reach out. But I invite you just to continue to move forward, just knowing that your desires, your beauty, your strength, your intuition, all of that is completely normal, and it's here for you. It's a gift for you, and you are 100% allowed to be in all of that amazing essences. And these stories that you can't have it, or it's sinful, or it's not good enough, these are just old societal stories. It's just not who we are, right? Live in your truth. Embody your magic. All right, friends, I'll talk to you soon.